Have you ever experienced a God wink? You know, the kind of experience you know without a shadow of a doubt that God stepped in and gave you a big old wink from heaven. I'm your host, Cindy Spar, broadcasting from Office Evolution in Troy, Michigan. I am the founder of My Collective Network and My Christian Business Network, two amazing business networking organizations. I am a firm believer that there is power in sharing God wink stories. Think of it as a way for people to shine their light on Jesus, one wink at a time. In Matthew 5:14, it says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven."
We cannot record it. Oh, girl, you and me both. I've done this before.
All right, guys. Welcome back. I've got a little bit of chuckle in my voice, and I got to tell you why. For you, those of you that podcast, I thought I was recording. I think we were 10 minutes in, and we weren't. So you can just laugh about it, right? Ha, 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 ha. That was funny.
It was.
But welcome to the God Week Podcast. I'm your host, Cindy Spar, and today I am so blessed to have my own coach. I
like it.
Sarah Krieger on with us today. Sarah, usually, guys, I pay her for every minute of her time, and I owe her a steak dinner because she's been so patient today sitting here and talking with us, but especially when we weren't recording. But anyways, hey, listen, I am just so excited to have her on with me today because I have to tell you, there's been God winks that brought us together, but there's also been such synergy of learning what to do differently in the inner work that I had to do in my life, the mindsets, along with the outer work. And God plays into that for me. There were times my mindset, I'm going to tell you actually last night, I was working on projects and I'm like, I'd really like to go get some food right now out of the kitchen, and it's midnight because I'm working on projects. And that's what Cindy used to do. She would go eat when she would work on projects. Like, good girl, you got a project done. Go have an ice cream.
Reward.
Yeah. So, but I really wanted to have her on here. We're going to start things out with some God winks of what was happening to bring us together, and then also what we've learned in the process through it. So, I'll start with the God wink when we met. So, lo and behold, I was in the car listening to a podcast. The podcast is Jetta's Digest, like Jetta the car, but spelled Geta, Jetta's Digest. And she had Sarah on her podcast. And during that, I was like, this girl's fire. And at that time, I think it was the end of February, I was on a program for my health that I thought, this is great. I'm losing weight fast. And I listened to this podcast and I'm like, according to what she's saying, if I don't see myself doing this program the rest of my life, I probably shouldn't be doing it. Mm-hmm. And so she had gone through BMR, basal metabolic rate.
You got it.
Oh, yeah. And it talked about, hey, this is how many calories you should be having based on your height, weight, and age. And that's just in a vegetable state if you never moved around and just laid in bed. And I think back then when I looked it up, it might have been like 1,700 calories. And at that time, I was taking in 1,200 calories. And so I'm like, well, that ain't good. Like, I'm starving my body. I'm below the vegetable rate. Like,
yeah, I'm below a vegetable. There's cucumbers. There's me.
So I'm like, that ain't good. So I'm driving, listening to her talk, Sarah talk to Jetta about this, and I'm looking up my own BMR in the car.
No, she wasn't doing that.
Yeah, I was at a stoplight. And I found out, wow, like I'm not eating enough. So I get to this networking event, and I sit down, and I look to my left, and who's sitting next to me? Sarah Krieger.
Yep. That's me.
So I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Like, what in the world? So we end up talking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just listened to your podcast and my BMR, and I probably word vomited. I don't know.
It's okay.
But that was a wink. I was like, dang. I'm like, I'm meant to work with her. So tell your wink.
Yeah. So my wink is very similar to get to Jeddah was a networking event, and it was in Birmingham. That's even more funny because they were both in Birmingham.
Was it really?
Yeah. We met down at Amori's in Birmingham, and then we were at Dobie Real Estate in Birmingham.
Gosh. This is probably all Emily Jacobs right here.
It is Emily Jacobs.
It's her territory.
It was. Yeah. So, but I just put that together. So I sat down next to Jetta, and she's kind of said what she did, and we just started chatting and talking. And then outside of that, it was like, oh, we're a lot more aligned in our business than like I originally had thought. A lot of times when people say they're a coach, I take it very with a grain of salt, if you will. Sorry, not to be rude. But honestly, and so then I started following her, and I was like, oh, no. She's like real. She's like real business about what she does. And so, yeah, and that's how I got in with Jetta. And Jetta was on my podcast, and I was on Jetta's podcast, and now Jetta and I are collabing. So
good.
Yeah.
And I told Jetta, so she focuses on like digestion and everything. I feel so bad because, she loves it. Talk about poop all day long.
All day.
She's okay with it. And I'm like, I got so much gas every time I eat, I have gas.
Yep.
And she's like, all right, that's fine. Like, here's some things we can do to like work through this.
Yep.
And you guys just worked in tandem. I liked that.
Yeah. I think that's why we're doing the collab is because she's very brainy, as in she has a lot of the education background. Mine comes from, I have certifications and experience, but she's actually like, she could tell you like, this is the thing, this is why, I can't necessarily, I know, hey, when you don't poop for 4 days, it's not normal. Also, when you have diarrhea poop for 4 days, that's not normal. But I can't necessarily like pinpoint specifics all the time. Also, it's not in my scope of practice because I don't have that education piece. And I'm really, I don't know the word. I'm adamant that I stay within that scope.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like understanding where my boundary level is and like what has to be referred. So if somebody comes to me with bad digestion or has chronic illnesses, which is really what she works with, then I can go to her and say, hey, well, what do we got going on here? And then we can collab and still help this person. So that's what I love about it.
That's good networking right there.
It is. And she, too, is actually more recently also taking a more faith-based approach. So everything, she is now changing everything into faith-based.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
And for me, that's good because it continuously is pulling people who are faith-based into my life to help me a little bit more on my journey. So
that's cool.
There's definitely a circle here.
Oh, yeah. We got like a puppeteer God that's like, yeah.
Yep. Like putting pieces together intentionally, purposefully.
Yeah.
For sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, tell our listeners a little bit about you.
Okay. I love this question. It's very difficult to answer, even though it shouldn't be. But I'm a mom of 3. I was born and raised in Royal Oak, Michigan, but have lived all over the world and was able to see a lot of things, but also experience a lot of things, too. And that led me back here to Michigan after being away for, 10-plus years. Never thought I would come back to Michigan, but ended up meeting my current husband after a pretty nasty divorce, which is all part of my own journey and my own experience of why I do what I do today. And so weight has always been something that affected my life from the time that I can remember. I remember being 5, 6 years old, knowing I'm the biggest girl in the room, understanding that other people don't have the same eating habits that I do, understanding that when I would go home after school, I would just eat and then eat more and then eat more. And I know that the first time we recorded this, you had mentioned something that the old you used to do, right? Or maybe that was this time. Was it this time? I don't even remember.
Even last night.
Right. Okay. Was that what we were talking about? I can't recall if we recorded that. It's things that the old you used to do. And I actually just recently posted about there's this really great mom and pop shop, Pepe's, right around the corner from my house. They do baklava. They do what are those things? Pasties. So good. Pizza, all sorts of stuff. But anyways.
I wish that was pasties. If you guys could see me, I was kind of touching,
So something that I would used to do would be eating. So they have this whole case of desserts, and I would go eat the dessert, and then I would pick up my dinner, and then I would go home. But nobody would know that I would eat the chocolate eclair that was there, or the angel wings, or the whatever, insert anything. It could be the grocery store, getting a candy bar while I'm grocery shopping, going home, and eating it on the way home so that nobody could see that I was eating it, and then pretending everything's fine. I'm normal.
You see nothing.
Yes. So it didn't happen, right? And so, after meeting my husband, he is very entrepreneurial mindset, which I think that's part of why, of course, that whole story is its own God wink to begin with. But I think that's partly why I'm doing what I'm doing now, is because he had this grand idea after I lost 80 pounds and maintained it. And everybody's going, how did you do that? I was like, you just eat right and exercise. I don't know. It seems so simple when you think about it, right? I don't get it. And they're like, that can't be true, And so he's like, why don't you help people, start getting your certification? So that's what I did. And so for 4 years, I've had consistency over perfection. And that is how I got to where I got to 80-pound loss. And now, again, kind of on my journey after a recent mishap, hiring a coach and having them help me, quote unquote, put on muscle mass. And that didn't go very well. So we're on this journey again. And there's lots of learning happening.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. It's even... it's like a trust fall too, kind of going to that. I think so many times we're like, am I doing it all right? And well, should I change this and should I change that? And is it because I'm doing this? There's too much we throw into our head to where it makes us just completely freeze and stop.
Yep.
And I've realized in my own personal journey, you were like, baby steps.
Yep.
Are you 1% better than you were last week or today even? You've coached I'm in your women's community, right?
Yep.
So we can talk through your app and share challenges that we're having. And I remember as different people would come in, new people, they're like, how do I conquer all this? And you were like, how about you just drink your water?
Yeah. Focus on it. Yeah.
And it's like, you have to do it in baby steps or you'll just stop.
Yeah.
You can't do it all.
You can't. I mean, but that's anything with life, though, right? Like when we start applying those same principles, it's like you wouldn't, I don't know, you wouldn't have like a 55,000-page manual and try to read it in a day. You wouldn't expect somebody who's brand new on a job to understand how to log into everything that day that they start their job, right? Yet you expect and have these expectations for yourself that I can get 10,000 steps, 800,000 ounces of water, work out 75 hours a day and all this, eat nothing but quote unquote clean food. Like we put these expectations on ourselves and it's like, whoa, pull it back a little bit. Like let's just peel the onion. Let's just like you said, drink some water.
Yeah.
See how that makes us feel.
Yeah. And even with weight loss, I have seen my weight is not like this perfect. She's just shedding it off.
Right.
It goes up, it goes down. Could be hormones, could be water retention. I could be doing all the things. And sometimes my body's just like, hey, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Like you might gain 5 pounds in a week because your body's holding water. One thing, though, specifically that you said that I was struggling is when I was getting ready to have surgery and then having the surgery, the consistency for me was just like, oh, my gosh, like I can't. I usually walk like 3 miles a day. I got to get my 9,000 steps in. and I liked it. Like, it wasn't like work for me, but I was saying, hey, so they're saying I should be doing like really rigorous work, but it's bugging the heck out of me. And you went through coaching with me to say, this is that perfectionist part.
Yeah. Type A. Slightly. We're the capital type.
Capital type.
The capital type of A.
Yes.
We're the pointy kind.
Degree. But I felt like, you're right. Like, is the whole world going to fall apart if I didn't get my 9,000 steps in? And in the beginning, I remember she's like, please don't get to the point where you're about to go to bed and you're like, whatever, 100 steps shy of reaching your 9,000 steps. Because I was that one. I was like, I'm going to just walk around the house so I can make sure that box gets checked.
Correct.
And that's where people quit.
That's exactly where people quit, because either they'll do it and then they'll be upset that they had to get up and finish that last 100, or they don't do it and then they feel guilt and shame. And so then they go, see, this is why I shouldn't do it. This is why I'm a failure. This is why this isn't for me. And then they just shut down. Instead of just, it's 100 steps. At the end of the day, is that 100 steps actually going to make anything change on the scale? No. Do we understand that logic in our brain when that happens? No. No, because we just feel like if I don't get the 9,000 steps, you can do everything, quote unquote, perfectly, and the scale goes up. Then you can go have pizza, and then the scale goes down. And you're like, wait a minute, I had a pizza and the scale went down? That's not how this is supposed to work. And then you're like, I did everything to the T. I did everything perfectly, and it still didn't go down. And that's where we live.
Oh, yeah. But when you get wrapped up into the scale, you also quit.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, it was a matter of, I asked myself the question from that Jetta's Digest podcast, is what you're doing now something you can do for the rest of your life? And I'm like, yeah. Like, there's a question we fill out, guys. She's got a form where it asks, do you feel like deprived? Are you hungry? And I'm like, no.
Right.
Because there was a coffee truck at my nephew's graduation party yesterday. It was like a coffee one. And I'm like, I'm going to get a coffee. And I think I drank like even a wee bit. And I was like, this is so sweet.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But the old me would have drank 2 of them.
Right. Yeah.
It was so good. But it's like that mind shift of you can have these things.
Yeah.
But like, then you start to change what you used to like to have into, oh my gosh, I can have it, but I just don't really want it.
Well, once we remove the power, right? So food has just this chokehold on us, essentially. And once we say no more, like, it's just food. And I know that sounds so crazy to say, but think about all the moments in your life where that food has made you feel or think a certain way about yourself. And we continuously allow it to control us. In the moment that we release that power over food, then it's like, oh, it's not even that big a deal. For instance, I have a one-on-one client I'm working with 6 weeks almost. The very first week, all she's talking about is these donuts she's getting from Dunkin' Donuts. She's like, it's just like habit for me to drive, and then I go, and then I get 2 donuts and a coffee, and I put my Premier Protein in there, and then blah, blah, blah. Great. I said, next time you go to Dunkin' Donuts, just get 1 donut and get like a breakfast sandwich. I want you to try that and see how that feels, right? Like, let's just shake it up a little bit.
Yeah.
See if that's even doable for you. If it's not, then you just get your 2 donuts and you move on, right? She said, the next week we have our check-in. I didn't even go to Dunkin' Donuts. And it had nothing to do with because I couldn't. It was just because once it was just like, oh, I'm allowed to have a donut. It wasn't even a big deal. She said, however, on the flip side of that, she wouldn't eat a Rice Krispie treat because those were bad for you. And we get into this like crazy cycle of thinking like, well, I can't have a donut. I can have a donut, but Rice Krispies, man, they're really bad. It's like, where does that come from? You could have 2 Rice Krispie treats for 1 donut. Maybe even 3, depending on the donut.
Oh.
Right? If it's like a filled donut or something, right?
Bunchki?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You could probably have 4 or 5. Honestly. But, but that's the cycle that we get in. So it's just allowing it to not have this grip on us, this powerful hold on us. It's not about using language like I can't or I'm not allowed, but I choose not to because it's not alignment with what I want for myself. Mm-hmm. It's not something I desire anymore. So it's really just flipping language, flipping mindset. And then again, not allowing everything that's external affect the internal. So when you get on the scale and it puts you in a bad mood, flipping around to say, what does this data tell me today? Well, maybe today it doesn't tell me a whole lot, but over the course of the last 3 weeks, it tells me a lot. And what happened, speaking of, what happened when I was like, you told me the doctors say I'm not supposed to do this or that or whatever. I'm like, so then you rest. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, but what is that you're just going to rest. And what happened?
I lost weight.
She's like, oh, I kind of like this rest thing.
I'm like, what? I just lost weight.
Yeah. Because, again, sometimes our body actually needs to rest to, I don't want to say feel safe, but to understand, like, it doesn't always have to be doing something. It is allowed to just be.
And the mental piece that you did behind that, because you do this so well, you ask an open-ended question. Like, you never just... Like, you don't tell us.
No.
You ask us, well, what's the root of this? Is it that you struggle to just let yourself rest, or that you really don't want to do what you're supposed to be doing? And I was like, no, I really want to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And you're like, rest.
Right. Right. Because at the end of the day, it becomes, what is the worst thing that's going to happen if you rest as you're told? What's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Yeah.
That's what it becomes. Well, if the answer is, I don't even know what the worst is, yet we can't do it. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't even know what could happen. Well, maybe the scale goes up. Oh, okay. What happens then? Then what? And it's just getting a little bit further. Well, then the scale goes up. Does it mean you're eating too much? Nope. Does it mean it's fat? Nope. Plus, you're prepping your body to have a procedure done. Like, you have to honor your body to say, hey, I need to pull back. I need to slow down so that you can do what you need to do and heal. And a lot of people don't understand that while our bodies are taking time to heal, that takes energy. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of energy for the body to heal. So when I dropped a 45-pound plate on my foot, and I was, at the gym. Highly 0 of 10 recommend.
Jeez.
Yeah. So when I did that, and I was non-weight bearing for 6 weeks. Let me tell you what that does to somebody who trains 5 to 6 days a week. Like, that was a really big mental hurdle that I had to get through. And it was hard. It was super hard. And I was so paranoid. I was so scared. Oh, my gosh, I'm going to gain all this weight back. I'm just going to be like,
You're going to fall off the wagon.
Yeah, I can't eat anything that's not protein because it's just going to turn into fat. And I got to a point about 2 days after, I was just like, give me a cupcake. I want one of those Hostess birthday cake cupcakes. And that became my thing. Every day I ate one. And it just made me feel so happy for the 20 minutes. I just let myself enjoy this cupcake and savor it. And you want to know what happened? Nothing. Nothing bad happened. I didn't gain any weight.
Man.
I lost some strength. Obviously, that's going to happen. But I didn't. The
world did not end.
It didn't end. But we put ourselves in these situations of what we think is going to happen. And then it's like, oh, it wasn't even half as bad as I expected it to be. Oh, whew. What that helps us do is realize the next time that we're put in that situation, we can recall and go, oh, man, remember that time I had this procedure and they're telling me again that I need to rest and I don't really want to rest. But I remember the last time Sarah told me, what's the worst that's going to happen? And I told her, I don't know, nothing. And you'll be able to do that on your own.
Yeah.
Versus constantly me having to tell you, just rest. It's okay. Just rest. You're going to recall what happened and be able to go, okay, I can rest, and I know that the end of the world will not happen.
Yeah, I think going through the changing your mindsets of you're not going to fall off the wagon. You've been doing this for like so long. Well, for me, it doesn't feel long really, but it's been about 4 months since February.
Yeah.
But when you go back to doing maybe your old ways, for me, I'm like, ugh. I don't like it. I had a Dorito and I thought, holy cow, did someone just dump the whole thing of salt on here? Like your taste buds just change. Or
They do.
You yearn to go out for walks because you feel so much more energized from it. So I think giving ourselves grace to say, you've been doing this a while. If you even like had an opportunity to fall off the wagon, you're not going to like it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I call it stepping on and off the path. And it's just like, well, we have to take a pause for a second. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Or we just step over and let somebody else pass while we're handling our business. And then it's just like we step back on. The problem is that seems scary. I can't just stop walking. Like, what's going to happen? So then everything tanks. We let go of everything because we can't just let go of the walk. So then we let go of all of it, right? Then we're rolling down the hill into the pricker bushes, and then getting ran over by the horse cart, and then it's like, well, I really just didn't want to stop walking, but now all of a sudden I'm way down here at the bottom of the hill when I could have just stepped off the path for a hot second and got back on. And so that's like, but again, that's the recall, that's the do. When you think about it in your history, where have you ever been successful being able to stop something on a program without feeling bad, guilted, or shamed and get back on the path? And it's just this little boop in the radar.
Yep.
Probably not many. Probably not many programs.
Yeah, and I had to go through learning. I still to this day will have. I'm not gonna lie. I love these chocolate shakes, and I remember telling her,
them.
Yeah, I was like, I really, really like them, and I know it's part of a program, but they taste so good. Like it's my dessert. But guys, I realized that it actually was messing with my C. difficile. And if any of you guys know what C. difficile is, it's like within your intestines can lay dormant. And then if you clear out the good bacteria, you got poopy problems.
Big poopy problems.
So I only will have it once in a great while and won't have the issues. But I thank God that we met.
Yeah.
Because could you imagine? I'm drinking these suckers like constantly because I'm like, oh, they're just so good. They're so good. And then I'm like, why am I having bathroom issues?
Yeah.
And I would have never known that if it weren't for you and Jetta saying, yeah, you might want to pause that.
Yeah. And you get a lot of other things that happen with that too, because it makes everything uncomfortable. So you have digestion issues. Well, when you're out in public, when you have events that you go to, this is what you do for a living. It's like, well, I got to be close to a bathroom, and I'm not even a public bathroom person. Like I do not like to go to the bathroom.
Porta potties scare me.
Oh gosh, awful, and they smell terrible.
Someone's gonna come up there and just bite my butt.
There's Cindy. That's epic. That's actually the least of my fears in a porta potty. I can think of many other things, but again, it's causing other issues outside of just the bad digestion. It also leads to a really uncomfortable feeling, like the bloat that comes with it, and then you feel puffy and all these other things that it's not just about the food itself or the thing itself that's causing the problem. It's like a trickle effect on everywhere else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was funny. I don't know if you have this on your phone or you can pull this up. When I texted you that scripture one day, it was so crazy. Like, I was reading in the Bible, and was it the book?
Did you put it in the group?
I put it as a text to you, like a text message picture. It was Isaiah 55, verse 2. Why spend your money on food that does not give you strength? Why pay for food that does you no good? Listen to me, and you will eat what is good. You will enjoy the finest food. I was like, Sarah! She's like, that ain't no coincidence.
No, it's not. It's really not a coincidence. And even with, I know, like, you're not interviewing her or this podcast, but, like, that's also with Jetta. Jetta talks about the amount of times that food is mentioned in the Bible and what they're talking about, yet we eat all this or try to do all these crazy things when it's like, just eat the potatoes. Potatoes are great. They're delicious. Yeah. Make them how you like them. Eat the food that you love. And I think that's what really, in turn, allows you to honor your body and respect your body. And I even just did a reel today about, like, you still need to eat food, even if you overate food yesterday, even if you got diagnosed with something, even if you, like, all these reasons that we choose not to eat food, that is a sign of lack of self-respect at the end of the day. And it's like you have to honor this piece of you.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
You get one. You get one.
You get one.
You get one.
Well, the inner and outer work too, that I had to lean on even in God. Like last night, I was just like I haven't had one sip of even a drink of alcohol since January. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it'd be nice if we have a glass of wine right now, working on these projects. And I went downstairs, talked to Spencer, my husband, and I was just like, I'm going through the mentals right now. Mm-hmm. And I says, I want to eat. I want to have a glass of wine. But God's just like, give it to me. And I'm like, oh, but, I haven't done it I haven't had a glass of wine in a long time. Give it to me. I just literally kept, hearing him, say, you got to give it to me. We've come so far. Mm-hmm. And even when I started on the journey, I talk on this on one of the episodes of the podcast, is he was telling me, I'm not just doing an outer work, I'm doing an inner work. Mm-hmm. And they're going to work in tandem, because if you are going to walk in the purpose that I have for you, you got to have your physical body back, but you also have to have your mindset, everything. And you've got to come to me when you feel weak. Mm-hmm. And so I just think it's so important for those even listening to grasp onto that. I always say in my posts that I tag Sarah on, first is I want to thank God that I have kept to this new journey, mm-hmm. right? Anytime I'm weak. And second is the people he surrounds you with to help you with it, because he knows you need the help. Right. So, I encourage the listeners, you lean into him when you feel weak. It sounds may sound crazy, but cry out to him. Be like, oh my gosh, I'm angry right now. Oh my gosh, I'm sad right now. Please help me get through this. Whatever mm-hmm. your addiction is. Yeah. Doesn't have to be food. It can be alcohol. Whatever it is. There's so many out there, but you got to lean in and say, I don't want to carry this. Help me through it. And so I just pray that you guys will see that unless you allow him to do the inner work, he can't pull through your outer work, because there's too many strings attached mm-hmm. to the past, right? Yeah. You got to break through some strongholds. Yeah. What is it? What percent is mindset over just what you're eating? Eating's, makes a big difference.
For me personally, and just my experience in working with a lot of women, it's all mindset. Because I always say your weight will always be a side effect of the way that you treat yourself. So whether that's putting nutritious food into your body, whether that's moving your body, our bodies were meant to move. Our bodies were not made to be stagnant, spiritually and actual physically, on a physical level. And so it's always going to be a side effect. It's always going to be a side effect of that. The outside will always be a side effect of the inside. And that's not to say that people who are necessarily overweight aren't happy, but I also truly believe that it's a very good indicator of how you feel about yourself, unfortunately. It was for me. I was 240 pounds. And even though I was happy, I was just remarried, I had a lot of baggage that came with all of that. And it was almost like I was breathing I was like, okay, thank you. This is done.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so I just used food as this piece. It was like, okay, I can breathe again. And I'll just eat whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want. Doesn't matter. And so it was the mindset piece is all these things that have happened and transformed and transpired in our history, in our past as kids, as we've aged as adults. It's all of that is influencing what we're doing now and how we treat ourselves now. I believe it's 100% mindset. Everything else just kind of follows. Yeah. If you can get the mindset piece really worked, the weight will come. Mm-hmm. The physical appearance that you desire to have will happen because it is a reflection of who you are.
So having the nickname Sausage as a kid didn't help my... I like BK. I had BK, but I also had sausage. I always had this belly that just popped out, and I'm like, kid likes food, belly pops out.
Yeah. And it is that, and especially, I don't want to say that it depends on where it's coming from, but it can really matter where it comes from. I actually received a lot of, teasing, if you will, from my siblings. Oh, your stomach's bigger than your boobs, and all sorts of stuff. That is something that always had stuck with me, even as an adult. So that was like one of the very first things as I was on my journey. I'm like, oh, look, my stomach is not as big as my boobs anymore.
So true.
And it's kind of sad. It's awful. And, part of, I think, my own journey too, is my why of I never want my 15-year-old daughter to ever feel the way I felt. And if I didn't change my behaviors and my habits, she would have picked them up. Genetics, people talk a lot about genetics and health. They have a lot less to do with genetics than the actual habits that you pass to your children. And that's hard. That's a hard reality.
Yeah. You had to think that we're the point that are causing it.
Yes.
Yeah. If there was something that you would tell our listeners, that without a doubt, out of everything we talked about today, that you want them to take away, what would it be?
Gosh. I think that we need to just really lean in a little bit more to the people who are around us, to the people, and really have a little bit more discernment of who we allow in our space. I think that we are the company that we keep. Which is why when I talk about you coming into my life and Jetta coming into my life, who are two both a little bit more godly women who follow Christ a little bit more, maybe than what I do and probably as I desire to. So I think that understanding who you are keeping in your circle matters, because I think that at the end of the day, those are going to be the people outside of whatever you're doing spiritually, but the actual physical beings on earth are going to be the people that are going to help you continue forward when you sometimes feel like you can't do it, or even sometimes when you're like crying out for help and don't feel like you're quote unquote getting the answer that you want to get from him, because he's just like, yeah, we're just going to do this anyways. And I'm not really, doesn't matter what you think and feel. And you're just going to hold on for the ride. And you're going, how is this even going to happen? And it's going to be the physical people on earth that help you move through those pieces. So I think that the company that you keep spiritually, but also physically, you are who you hang with. So
I can't help but think about that song, Katie Nicole, that you're talking about, My God Can.
Oh, yeah, I sent you that.
Yeah. I'm like, every time it comes on, I'm like, yes, it's so true. Might not be able to do this, but my God can do it.
Yeah. Well, and there was actually another one that I heard, I don't know if it was the same day, but Brandon Lake's Miracle Baby. I don't know if you've...
Have I heard that?
Okay, so my mom miscarried before me, and Miracle Baby is all about like how you are meant to be here.
I just thought it was kind of interesting because of Miracle Babies.
Oh my gosh.
Guys, I just did an interview with Annika.
Yes.
So you probably already heard it because she's the episode before this one, but it's Shared Heart Beats Miracle. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, honestly. Yeah, and so again, it's like kind of leaning into that, like there's a purpose for you, a reason that you're here. And so that was another one that kind of hit me home, because it was like, so, sometimes you question, like, what am I even doing? Like, in my realm, like, am I even helping anybody? Like, are people even, I'm just talking about peanut butter all the time on the internet and people get angry at me. It's like, what's even happening here? So, but, things like that. But yeah, so.
Yeah, it's crazy how miraculously things they'll come together, not always like you expect them to.
Yeah.
But
here they are.
Here they are. Yes. All right. So, Sarah, how can people connect with you outside of today?
So I have a podcast. I love it. You should come on there, actually. I actually am going to have you on there. So I want you to talk about your experience, with me. But that is called Don't Call Me Skinny. And it can be found on Spotify, Apple, and all the other Google, wherever you listen to your stuff. And then also just on Facebook, you can find me at Sarah J. Krieger. And then I also have Instagram. It's just a normal social media stuff. So the basics B.
The basics B.
The basics B. Because that's what we do is the basics.
Yes.
The unfun stuff.
You drink water, you eat, exercise,
Yes.
and sleep.
That's it. That's all we do here.
Yep, that's it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening in, and thank you, Sarah, for taking the time with me today.
I don't even know how much time.
Oh, yeah. I think it's about maybe the longest one ever. But guys, I look forward to hearing more of your God Wink stories here on the God Wink podcast. If what Sarah shared with you today really resonates with you, or you think of somebody that needs to hear it, please share the podcast with them so that they can be blessed as well. Last but not least, have a blessed remainder of the day, and cannot wait for you to listen in on our next Wink. I want to give a big thank you to Office Evolution Troy for providing their podcast studio for us this afternoon to record. If you have any questions or you would like to book your own time in their podcast studio, give them a call at 586-788-9966. If today's God Wink story really hit home with you, we would love to hear about it through the God Wink community on Facebook. If you know of someone that needs to hear today's God Wink story, show them some love and tag them on the God Wink podcast. You never know how a God Wink story might change their day around for the better. If you or someone you know has a God Wink story that the world needs to hear, we want to hear it. Simply click the link within the podcast notes to send in your God Wink story. Until next time, remember, God's got you. Wink, wink.